Welcome back, traders. It is March 6th, 2025. We do have non-farm payroll tomorrow. And typically, as a general rule for myself, I don't trade the day before non-farm payroll because it can be very, very choppy in the markets. So I'm going to avoid it today. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and do a backtesting session. Now, if you haven't checked out the backtesting guide, I do have part one linked in the description. That one will give you the rules and the model that I'm trying to follow as I'm backtesting. As always, I ask that you give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. So looking at the weekly chart for NASDAQ, we're at all-time highs. It gets very difficult to trade because I don't have any higher targets. So what I did was I did a projection from this low to this high. And as you can see, I'm looking at this -1 standard deviation, the potential target for us to get to for a symmetrical swing. Not too much to talk about on the daily chart. Just gonna keep my eye on this fair value gap. As long as we're above this fair value gap, I'm gonna maintain a bullish stance. If we do start trading below it, then I'm gonna start thinking about flipping to the bearish side. Okay, so I have it set to January 22nd, and I'm gonna go ahead and try back test this fourth week in January 2024 from the 22nd to the 26th. Right here, I have the 15-minute chart. You can see it's pretty tight. The hourly was really hard to see, so I just jumped straight into the 15-minute. And as you can see, we've already pre-market taken out this high here. I don't really like it. I want to be bullish. So by this liquidity getting taken right now, I think it's going to come down and sweep this low right here. Don't know if it's going to continue lower for a retracement or not. But what I want to see is price coming down to take this low and maybe give me some sort of setup for the highs. I just don't really like how this is already taken. I think today may be a no trade day. We could just go down a little bit lower before maybe going back up later in this week. So here we are after 8:30 on the 5-minute chart. You can see that 8:30 we had news. Market dropped down immediately. We took this sell side below this low. And we take this low, and this low. I'm gonna go ahead and skip forward and take a look. Okay, so we did take out this low just before 9 o'clock. I want to see if we can get this high right here taken. That will give me a market structure shift to aim for this high and potentially going for, kind of hard to see, but that projection target on the weekly. Okay, so 9:25, right before the 9:30 opening bell. You can see that after we took out the sell side, we went up a little bit, went down lower to take out this low, and now we're kind of displacing up higher. Now, if this fair value gap maintained intact, I don't think this candle is done forming, but if it is done forming and this fair value gap is intact, I'll go ahead and try and take one with a stop loss here and just enter at this fair value gap. I'm going to try to take first partial somewhere in this fair value gap because we could just come back up into the CIBI and then go even lower. So definitely want to take a partial here and move my stop to break even. And if we do get above here, then I'm going to see if we can take out the high that formed in pre-market. Okay, so after the 9:30 bell, we did have a small fair value gap here. I put my entry at the high of that fair value gap, but we didn't get an entry in and market just took off without us. We went ahead, rebalanced this fair value gap, and it looks like it is going for the highs. Now, if it doesn't take out that high and it retraces some, then that is a potential for us to get in for this high if we can. But this is a pretty big range. It's going to have to come down here and build some kind of a smaller structure for me to manage my risk, because I can't risk this whole entire range. That's way too much. Okay, the next 10 minutes or so, price did come to take out this high, and then it went a lot lower, creating a new low of the day. So it does look like we're going to be heading lower today, but like I said, from a higher time frame bias, I want to be bullish. I don't want to be going short. So if you take a look at the higher time frame, we did go up a lot, so there is a bunch of inefficiencies here. I think we could be coming down here, but as long as we're above that daily fair value gap, I want to take longs. So I'm just going to wait patiently. I think today we could just retrace, and then perhaps maybe tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday, there'll be chances for me to take longs to go for this high. Okay, 12.15, as you can see, did not really have any chances for a long. Market just kind of chopped around here a little bit before creating a new low of the day. Then after reaching this point, it did come back to retrace some, about halfway equilibrium here, dropped a little bit, and now we're going to head into lunch. And maybe the PM session has a setup, but you know, my rules, not going to be trading after 12.15. So we're going to go ahead and just take a look at the end of the day and then move on to the next day. So at the end of the day, the market pretty much just consolidated at the lows. And if you take a look at the daily chart, you can see that we're still above this fair value gap. In fact, we created a larger fair value gap. I still think Tuesday will probably come back down into this fair value gap to rebalance this some. I guess we could try taking a short tomorrow, but I want to see price come down here, and then I want to be looking for longs to go for a new all-time high. You can see the hourly chart, it's pretty sideways. Now at 3 o'clock, we did go down to take these lows here, and now we are above this down candle. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 15-minute. So after this drop, taking out the sell side, we did create this fair value gap that was respected. This dropped down into this fair value gap, and then we rallied up above these highs. So not really seeing much, honestly. But I'll go ahead and mark out that the buy side was already taken here, and I'll mark out this BISC on the 15-minute to see if it will give us any more information in the future. Okay, so 8:30, we went up, rallied higher above that buy side liquidity that was taken earlier. After 9:30, you can see we dropped down way below this 15-minute fair value gap, and we took out the pre-market lows. This was that 3 o'clock low. So I'm thinking today may also be a non-trade day. Still going to be looking for longs as long as we're above that daily fair value gap. Okay, just getting before 10 o'clock, you can see that we did rally above, pretty much reversing this entire down candle. So there is a potential here. There is a small 5-minute fair value gap. I'll go ahead and mark it out. So there is a potential. I want to wait to see if this gives me some confirmation, because I think the risk here, 449 to about 476. I guess that is doable, but I think I want to go ahead and wait a little bit longer for confirmation. You can see that fair value gap I drew actually did not create a fair value gap. I needed to wait for the candle to close. So I'm going to get rid of that. We chopped around a little bit, and then we started dipping a little bit lower. I don't want to see price go below this low. If it does, I think I'm going to cut off any kind of bullish ideas for today. Now I do want to note this SIBI here. We traded above it, you know, chopped around a little bit in it, and now we went lower. So if we are going to go higher, I want to see price come up above this SIBI and then use it as inversion. At 12:15, the day is pretty much done. You can see we pretty much just chopped around the whole time. We were staying below the SIBI here. We did bump into it a few times, but ultimately we just consolidated between the day's low and the SIBI. So pretty good day for no trading. I'm going to go ahead and see what tomorrow has in store for us. Okay, so end of the day, this is 7:15. You can see that after like 12:50-ish or so, during the lunchtime, we did go above the SIBI, and then in the PM session, we did come and use the SIBI as inversion, so that there was potentially a trade in the afternoon going for this high. And then this right here, if you look on the 15-minute, there is a pretty large wick. This wick right here, I just took 50% of that. That was going to be, these three were going to be my target. The high of that wick, half of that wick, and then this high right here was going to be the first partial. So in the afternoon, price did come up to take target number 1 and target number 2 by the end of the day. So that's a little unfortunate, you know, it was just outside of our time window. Let's go ahead and go to the next day. Okay, so Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. See that overnight we did take that high. That was my target. So both of these are gone now. We may have made the low of the week here on Tuesday. So we could just be looking for higher prices. Doesn't really look like there's any sell side liquidity to sweep. Let's go to the 15-minute. I do want to see a sweep of the sell side before we get moving up higher, but that may just not happen. I'm going to go ahead and mark that low out. Ensure that we could sweep that low. Or we may just retrace back into this fair value gap, or it'll create a larger fair value gap and we can use that one instead. On the 5-minute, just marking out this fair value gap and this fair value gap. If we start coming back down, I want to see one of these hold as support. And then if they give us some kind of a structure for us to take along, we'll be aiming for, well, whatever the high is that. Okay, so a little while after 8:30, we started dropping. We went through this fair value gap. Looks like it may be looking for this low right here. It hasn't gone through it just yet. We'll see if we could give us a sweep and then see some kind of displacement to the upside. Okay, just before 9:30, we did, after taking this low right here, we did start rallying up. And I do see a rather large fair value gap. I mean, I say large, but I mean, it's only like, what, a few handles. But anyways, we could take a chance on this before 9:30. I think, let's see, what, 77 to 65, there's about 12 points. To this high is about 1-to-1. So I'm going to take half off here if we can get that. I'm going to go ahead and put in an entry here. So 12 handles. Let's go ahead and calculate how many contracts that would be. Okay, so according to the spreadsheet, at these prices, 4 contracts, that'll put me right under 1%. So let's go ahead and try to get into this trade here. As long as we don't take this high out, I want to see price drop into, pick me up, and then I'm going to take my first partial here. Okay, so 9:30, you can see that price never picked us up. Instead, it did go for the buy side first. So if I saw this happen in real time, I went ahead and skipped ahead like 10 minutes or so. So didn't see it, but I would have just canceled my order. I would take everything off because I want this buy side to remain intact before I, enter into trade. If it gets taken already, I'm not as excited. I need to see confirmation after that point. So this trade, I'm not going to count it. I would have definitely canceled it if I saw the sweep of the buy side. So from here, price does look like it's going to go for the sell side here. Like I said, I'm not really excited at taking shorts. I think this episode is going to be me just trying to stick with the higher time frame direction, which is going to be bullish. If we don't get any setups, then, well, we don't get any setups. We don't have any trade this week. But let's go ahead and see how the price plays out. Okay, so 10 minutes later, we can see that price did come for that low. I'm drawing out this rather large fair value gap. Now, if we're going to be bullish, definitely want to see price go above here and use this as inversion. Ideally, price would just stay in the upper half of this fair value gap. And if that can provide us some kind of setup, I want to go ahead and take along for this high, and then we'll see how price can go from there. But for any of this to happen, we got to have price go above this fair value gap. Okay, so it's a little bit after 10 o'clock. Don't really like this action for longs. I did come up to this fair value gap, but you can see the bodies are respecting that fair value gap. All the bodies is in the lower half, and we've started moving away from this fair value gap. So I guess if we really want, we could try to take a short, aiming for this low. If this fair value gap remains intact, we can take this with the risk up here. Let's say hypothetically 655. So that would be about 23, 24 points of risk. So that's something you could potentially take, but like I said, this episode, I'm going to try and stick with the higher time frame bias. So I'm not going to be trading any shorts. Okay, as you can see, 10:15, we started going, and now we are above that fair value gap. So yeah, there wasn't a fair value gap. It didn't form, so there was no potential shorts, just to be clear. Now, I don't want to see this high get taken yet. We make relative highs, that would be great. I want to see it come back down, maybe utilize this fair value gap one more time. We did get like a wick right here. So if this fair value gap form, maybe there's a potential there. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, we do have this up and down over here, so it's kind of a balanced price range. I don't think it's going to go below 50% of that fair value gap, but I'm going to go ahead a little bit longer just to see if I can see a good setup. Okay, and the buy side did get taken down. There was no additional retracement. So I think maybe on the 1 minute or something, there might have been something here. But like I said, my model at the lowest I'm going to go for is 5 minutes. So just trying to be patient. Didn't have a good setup here. Let's just go ahead and see what the rest of the trading session looks like. Okay, 12:05, pretty much into lunch now. You can see price did go up some, then it came back down, back to this high, consolidate a little bit. I thought maybe this SIBI may push price even lower, but no, we started going above it, and then we created this fair value gap, and we went into it. This could be a potential trade, 741, and then your stop would be at 702, so about 39 points of risk. 39 points of risk. So going up to this high, this will definitely be the first partial. It's not even 1-to-1, so I don't really think it's worth taking this trade, but I mean, I guess it could bounce up and take the high. Go ahead, 10 more minutes, and then and also the time, right? It's not in our time. It's pretty much like we don't have any time left for the trade, but it looked like it did create a new high, but not by much. So, I mean, I'm not bothered missing that. I mean, it's really not that ideal. So, just gonna be patient, wait. We have what? This was Wednesday, so we have a couple more days. Let's go ahead and see what the end of the day looks like, and then we'll move on to the next day. And as you can see, at the end of the day, price did go higher a little bit more, but then we started dropping past the low of the day. Pretty tough trading week, I would say. I mean, like your highs are getting taken, the lows are getting taken. It seems like every day is an outside day. But let's go ahead and take a look at the daily chart, actually. Okay, so looking at the daily chart and the day, this was the 24th. So we did wick into this fair value gap on Tuesday, the 23rd. Yeah. And then we started going higher. So we still go maybe we still can get to this -1 projection. So we'll see. We got Thursday left. Let's go ahead and take a look at Thursday's action. Thursday morning, 8 o'clock or 8:15. You can see that this week was pretty tough, pretty much sideways. Monday and Tuesday, we did go a little bit lower, not much. Then we did have a rally overnight, Tuesday overnight to Wednesday during the day, and then we dropped down. Now we're kind of in the middle again. So so far pre-market, we did not take out any sell side. So I'm gonna go ahead. I think we could mark this one. I'll mark both of them, but I like this one better because we have all these candles kind of like consolidating right here. So look, I want to see a sweep of this low. And then I'm gonna keep an eye on this fair value gap here on the 1 hour. Okay, so I'm gonna keep an eye on this fair value gap on the 1 hour chart. Now, looking at the 15-minute, we could just get a sweep of these lows or this low right here and not take out this low. That should be also fine. But I want to see some kind of a liquidity hunt on the lows and then see a market structure shift or displacement to the upside. And we could take one off at this 1 hour fair value gap and then maybe even aim for the high later on, but definitely want to take a partial somewhere on the way up. Okay, on the 5-minute chart, 8:30, you can see that we did wick down below these lows down here. Didn't take out any of the sell side that I mentioned, but we just started rallying back up into that 1 hour fair value gap. So not ideal, but if we do start retracing back somewhere and we get a nice structure, we could aim for that high still. So I'm still a little hopeful. As long as we don't, I don't think these lows are going to get taken. If these lows do get taken, I would not be interested in taking a long today. I think at the lowest, I would want to do, I want to see 50% of this wick on the 5-minute to provide some support. Okay, 9:30, we did come back into this fair value gap. Are we going to use this fair value gap as support? Well, we see another fair value gap. If so, I would consider taking it depending on how much risk there is. Okay, so 10:15, you can see that we did go down into this fair value gap, pretty much rebalance this entire fair value gap. And now we do have a smaller fair value gap here. We could have another one over here. So this small one right here, I'm just going to mark that out. Now, I'm also keeping an eye on that 1 hour fair value gap in red. It may not get back into this. Now, if we do leave this fair value gap intact, yes, I could take that, but let's just assume I'm going to enter here at 17,685. And then if that's the case, I would have the risk down here at 649. That's going to be what, about 35 points of risk or so. I think I could take about 2 contracts. I'll check the spreadsheet, and yeah, let's go ahead and give this a shot. All right, guys, so looking at the spreadsheet, I'm actually only able to take 1 contract. It's going to be 0.7% of the balance. 2 will definitely put us over 1%. So I'm going to go ahead and try to take this trade, but it's only going to be 1 contract, and I'm aiming for this high. That should be about 1-1. Now, if this fair value gap remain intact, I may consider changing my entry, but definitely don't want to see this get taken before it comes from my entry. Okay, just like I think yesterday, we went and took the buy side before it came down for my entry. That fair value gap did not remain intact. So unfortunately, I'm going to be canceling the trade. There's not going to be a trade. I mean, you know, sometimes trading, that's just how it is. You got to be patient and wait for your setup. Otherwise, you know, you're going to be taking suboptimal setups and you're going to get more losers than winners. I mean, we're just back testing, so it's easier said than done, but that's basically what you got to do. You just got to wait. Most of trading is just waiting. So try to work on your patience and not get too impulsive. 10:45, we did come back down into this fair value gap. If we had our entry there, we would be up some profits, but like I said, I don't like how the buy side was already taken. If this fair value gap form, I would consider taking this again. We're at all-time highs. Don't know what kind of target we gotta aim for. This 738. Not even sure if it's gonna be 1-1 because the risk to reward may not be appropriate here. So definitely just gonna wait. We are going back into this order block, so we could be coming back down for these lows. And as you can see, that fair value gap didn't even form. So we started going back into this order block, and now it looks like we are gonna be heading for these lows, perhaps half of this wick as the downward target. Okay, so you can see that 1 hour fair value gap, we did use it as support. We created another fair value gap and it just dipped into it. So we could create a new all-time high here, but you know, honestly, I'm not really happy with the price action. I'm just gonna let price go without me. If it's gonna go, this setup doesn't look that great to me, honestly. Okay, 11:55, almost lunchtime. So this fair value gap did hold up. We did create a new all-time high, but like I said, I was not really thrilled with the risk to reward here. I mean, what, 84 to, you know, that's gonna be like 26 or so, 26. I mean, I guess it was 1-1. But I don't know how much we can go. I mean, we did create this fair value gap. We'll see if this hold up, but basically we're out of time today. We're really outside my ideal time window, so that plays a big part in me not taking this trade. And okay, 12:15. you can see that, yeah, after we create that new high, we did go lower back down to equilibrium. You can see that's the high and the low of the day. We're pretty much at the middle again. So once again, no trade day, but that's okay. You know, the idea here is just to be patient, wait for that perfect setup. You know, I'm not really missing out on much. I mean, if I take it, I get a 1-to-1 or something, but the risk is like it comes back on me. So I just don't think it's that worth it. End of the day, man, like I think the story is pretty much the same. You have your 1, 2, 3 drives pattern, and it just goes for those lows earlier in pre-market session. So yeah, not enough. Another day that's not very good for longs. I think if we take a look at the hourly, you can see it is just sideways action pretty much. So tomorrow is Friday. I think Friday we may be heading down for these lows, but like I said, as long as we're above this daily fair value gap, I want to take longs. I just don't think it's the right time right now. Okay, so 8:16 Friday morning, we can see that the week is kind of sideways. So I just went ahead and just marked out the low of the week and the high of the week. And we're going to jump down into the 15-minute to kind of see what we got a little bit more short term. This high up here, so I'll mark that out. Of course, we got the low over here. So as you know, as always, I'm still just trying to look for a long right now, but let's go see what 8:30 will bring. Okay, so here we are, 8:35. You can see that we worked into this inefficiency pre-market. We're technically still in pre-market, but you can see at 8:30 when the news released, we went up, took out the sell or the buy setup here. Now, what I want to look for is I want to look for these relative lows to get swept. If we start going lower and sweep these relative lows, that's fine too. But after sweeping the lows, I want to see a market structure shift or displacement to the upside. Okay, so 8:55 before 9 o'clock, we can see that after the 8:30 drop, we did take out this low, and we did start getting some displacement. I mean, I would like to see these lows get swept, but maybe it won't happen. We do have a breaker, low, high, lower, low, and displacement to the upside. So we could be looking for these right here as a breaker. And if that's the case, I would have my risk here. Now, I do like this risk because ideally, I don't want to see this gap close in either if we're going to make a run for that high. So I think it's perfectly fine to have the risk here. This fair value gap could enter there. Let me just zoom in, see what the price would be. So that would be $5.99, or we can go down here. So I think we're going to go ahead and try to shoot for this one because this is a larger fair value gap and it lines up with the breaker. So I'm going to have my entry here, have my stop loss here. I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot. Looking for this high. I don't think we're going to go much higher. I mean, we do have that high of the week, and we also have this high. I'm going to mark this one out as well. I think this is going to be partial 1, partial 2, and partial 3. Okay, so getting to the spreadsheet, you can see that with my entry here and my stop loss, I can only take 2 contracts. If I move this up to 3 contract, it is going to put me over the 1% limit. So I'm just going to be disciplined, just take 2 contracts, and we'll just give this one a shot. Okay, so unfortunately, we did get stopped out with this breaker. Now, I wonder if it is going to take out this low. I mean, if we had our risk down here, maybe it would have worked out, but I do feel like it is going to go for these lows. It is still before 9:30. I think 9:30 can come down to take out these lows. I'm just going to wait for a little while here. After taking out these lows, then I'll be looking for some kind of a displacement or a shift to the upside. I did take a chance here, but I guess, you know, it just didn't work out. Okay, it's 10:15. We did take out these relative lows. Not seeing any displacement yet. Do want to see price get above this high, but I'm going to go ahead and also mark out this SIBI. This SIBI could play a role, so definitely want to keep track of this. All right, so 10:35. Yeah, we've gotten above the SIBI right here. I would like to see it being used as inversion, although I do see a fair value gap here and here. I think we could retrace back down here. Whether or not I want to take a short, not right now. I want to wait for confirmation, either with the SIBI used as support, or if we get some kind of support with one of these fair value gaps. Because you know what, price could still come down for these lows. So I'm just going to wait for confirmation. Then my first partial may be up here if the reward to risk is good enough. Otherwise, I am going to take it at the high that you saw earlier. Okay, so 11:55. The time is not ideal, but I am seeing a little bit of support here. You can see the bodies on the 5-minute is staying in the upper half of that inversion fair value gap. We create another small little fair value gap here, so I think I am going to go ahead and give this a shot. Let me just zoom in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot with my entry here at 17,600, risk at 17,577. So this is only going to be one contract because I did take a loss earlier today. So I'm only using half the size, only 0.5% risk. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and take it off at the high of the day if it can get there. That should be about a little bit better than 1-to-1, but about 1-to-1. The reason is because the time is not that great. I mean, we're getting close to lunch. What I'm hoping for is that I'm hoping lunch we can get one more run above this high. I mean, if it gets energetic, it could go for the other high, but I mean, lunchtime, I'm not expecting too much. Okay, 12:15, we did poke above that high, so I took off my one contract, got about 30 handles. So at least we made up some of the loss. And yeah, gonna go ahead and just end it here for this week. Unfortunately, we did not get a lot of action this week, but hey, what it demonstrates is that we can't be active all week. I mean, if you go back to the hourly chart, you can see on the hourly that we pretty much went sideways all week. We did get a little bit of a rally, but then it just came back, and now we're pretty much closing at where well, it was technically not closing, but we're ending up right here. Same place where we started at the beginning of the week. So really tough week. I think, the lesson that we should take away from is that we want to stick with our higher time frame bias. That's going to give us some focus. I mean, if we keep trying to flip-flop, I'm sure I will get chopped up in all of this. I mean, there's potential to make wins, but I think it's better to just go with the higher time frame bias. So I hope you guys enjoy this backtesting session. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't done so, and come back again for some more backtesting as we finish off January of 2024. But until I see you guys next time, safe trading.